Right.
It's Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, so you know what that means. It's time for another episode of #EventIcons, presented by Endless Events, the show where you get to ask the icons of the events industry anything. Use the question panel on the webinar to submit your questions, or you can hop on Twitter. Submit your questions with #EventIcons. We'll be answering your questions live during the entire show. Before we get started, the more people we have watching, the better conversation we can have. So please help share #EventIcons on Twitter and Facebook. Just tell your friends to watch at www.event-icons.com. Now, without any further delay, this is #EventIcons.
Oh, yeah. Hey, everybody. It's Will Curran from Endless Events, and I'm so excited to have everyone here today because we have an absolutely amazing episode lined up. And we're going to be talking about a really cool topic and a really cool technology as well. So get strapped in. But you may be noticing we're joined by a new co-host who is jumping in. Taryn, why don't you introduce yourself and kind of what you do?
Awesome. So my name's Taryn, and I'm one of the event Einsteins here at Endless Events, working with Will. So I get to chat with awesome event planners like you all day long. So excited to be here.
Awesome. And Taryn, today I was like, you know what, Taryn, you talk to customers all day, and you talk a lot about exhibits with the customers and the kind of exhibits that they're hosting. And so I figured you would really love this conversation, so I had to get you on today.
Awesome.
So I want to jump into today's episode and just get right on into it because there's so many questions, and I'm sure you as the audience want to know what we're talking about today. Today, I am joined by Jesse Sniper. Did I say that right? I realized I didn't ask you before we jumped.
It's a snipper. It's okay.
Snipper! Oh, no. I'm really good about asking the guests, but with my new technology problems, I forgot to ask you. Snipper. Thank you, Jesse. Jesse,
no worries.
You are absolutely amazing. Can you tell everyone a little bit about what you do and kind of why you are here?
Yeah, so I am the president of Coreapps and one of the 3 co-founders. We're a mobile technology company. We started out just making a mobile app back in 2009, but now we do a lot more than that. We have kiosks and wayfinders. I guess those are the same thing. We do iBeacon stuff. We do really cool things with we have a really nice show management platform. We launched a new iPad-only product last year just for exhibitors to sort of showcase products. It's pretty neat. But, I mean, today we're going to talk about, I think, some cool stuff related to audio tours, which I'll get to in a bit.
And that's why we brought Wayne on, right?
That's right. We'll make Wayne do all the talking.
Great. Wayne do all the talking. Wayne Crawford is in the house. Wayne, can you tell everyone a little bit about what you do at Coreapps and talk a little bit about the audio tours and why we're here?
Sure. So Jesse's already told you a little bit about what Coreapps does. So I'm the VP of Sales of Coreapps. So I'm responsible for managing the team that sells all the stuff to the industry. Audio Tours is cool. It's a new product that we've had. We're going to get into the technical details and some of the experiential stuff in a few minutes, but it gives show producers and exhibitors the opportunity to basically treat the show floor like a museum. And so I think we're going to dig into that in a few minutes. I'm wearing a couple hats today. One is working for Coreapps. I also have spent much of my career on the event organizer side. So I've kind of got that perspective as well.
Awesome. I think that definitely people are going to really appreciate that for sure because, far too often with app companies, they come in just as a technology standpoint. Right. And there's like, here's technology just to have technology. But
just use it.
Look at like the event organizers problems and say like, how can we solve that?
Yeah, and I've been at the industry forever, and I feel like I must have been on the really slow track to event iconism. Jesse got there quick.
I think that's the first time that word has ever been said, so we're going to trademark that right now.
Event iconism.
Taryn's already got it covered. She's there right now.
I love it.
On the slow track.
All right, well, before we jump into the audio tours portion, because this is obviously a show about featuring you guys, because you guys are truly icons. Can you tell everyone a little bit about, if you weren't in the events industry, what would you be doing? Do you find yourself still doing technology? Wayne, would you be doing sales? So, Jesse, why don't you kick it off for us and tell us
what you want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
Go ahead.
So I love technology, but I have done like a million different jobs with it. My very first job was I worked at a major university in North Carolina. I worked at NC State. and sort of got to understand a little bit about education and also what it meant to be like a government employee. I went from there to a startup cable company, and I learned all about the cable and television industry. I worked for the Washington Post, so I learned all about newspapers and how like that industry works. I did a huge project and worked for almost 2 years with careerbuilder.com. And so I learned all about that. So for me, I don't know what I would be doing, Will. It would be something with technology. I love learning on the job. So I wouldn't go do an app. I've never done the same type of company twice because I love learning about these other things. And so I don't know what the next one would be. It'd be something with technology, but some new industry for sure.
Awesome. I love it.
Because I love that learning.
Awesome. I think we're in a day and age where you do have to consistently be learning, constant learning and constantly innovating. And I'm sure on the technology side, you have to be as well.
Right.
Awesome. Well, Wayne, what about you? What would you be doing if you were in the events industry?
So I love the events industry. Everybody jokes about, you get in, most people who've been in it for a while get in by accident. And then they try to get away, but it's like a black hole and it sucks you back in. So I've done a number of different things in the event industry, from managing events. So I've been involved with brands like CES, NAB, JCK Jewelry, been involved in some really cool events, really cool technology, really cool launches. And then I've spent some time on the technology side as well. So I like the tech piece. That's really interesting. But I will say that one of my passions is music. And if I weren't doing this, I probably would be a drummer in a touring middle-aged boy band.
Oh,
nice. Absolutely.
Wow, that sounds fun.
So sexy.
Sad but true.
That's amazing.
So explain to us, what is this audio tours all about?
Jesse,
go
ahead.
You want me to explain? Okay.
Yeah, you start.
So this idea came out of a brainstorming session actually with CES years ago, when you have this massive show floor. You've got all these people who are new to the show. They don't know where to go or what to see. And I mean, you guys have all been to CES. What's really interesting is once you get the flow of it, once you've been a couple years, you realize that Sony's always in the same place. So is Panasonic. The key exhibitors are always in the same places, and you know where they are, and the show feels less intimidating because you know your way around. And if if you're new though, it's millions of square feet, and it gets bigger every year, and it's so overwhelming. And it's like we were riffing about how do you help those first timers feel more comfortable, and how do you help those people who've been going for years find the new stuff or whatever? Because again, at that time, CES was really pushing the expansion beyond just the convention center and what I guess is now called the Westgate. It's had the Hilton's had many names.
Used to be the Hilton, yeah.
Right. So we started off with interestingly, it was a pay for feature originally, where attendees would buy. We had a free tour and a pay for tour, which was super interesting, like an experiment to see whether or not attendees would sort of pay for this additional content of like helping them find their way around and stuff. And it's evolved since then. Most recently, we did for coverings in 2017, and they just renewed. And in fact, one of my tasks for next week is to work with them on the 2018 tours. It's evolved too. We did multilingual for them last year, which was really neat. So they did their sort of Coverings 101 tour. They did multiple tours. You don't have to have one. You can have many. I guess I should tell you a little bit about the idea. The idea is it is like a museum audio tour. You get those, your iPhone, your little earbuds, or you don't want to be walking around with your phone at your ear. But the idea is you'd put your earbuds in, and you push start on the tour, and it guides you around the show floor, and it tells you about the exhibitor that you're looking at, and then the app will say, okay, you say, I want to go to the next stop, and it gives you directions on, like interactive directions to help you get to the next stop. We can be giving you audio during that navigation, so you can be hearing about what you're going to see, then you can see it, and you can do it at your own pace. So it's sort of like going around, just like in a museum piece, but you're giving your attendees that sort of, that extra, you're showing them what they need to see, maybe making sure they get to your key exhibitors. There's some sponsorship opportunities here that I'm going to let Wayne talk about, because there's some clever, things that it can be more than just, getting people information, but it's a neat way. I mean, you're not holding your phone in your face, right? Like, that's the key. And that's where I think, is a big deal about this, is that you're getting a bunch of good information without this problem of, phone in the face, not being able to interact with other people, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. You saw like a pain point and found a way to solve it. I love it. Wayne, do you want to like expand on that a little bit?
Sure. So Jesse talked a little bit about some of the sponsorship opportunities. So one of the things that we try to do, and I think one of the things that's important to show organizers beyond obviously building community, providing a cool experience, is monetizing things. So we've built in the ability for exhibitors and sponsors to be able to purchase things that are part of essentially the tour stops in the museum, if you will. So it's almost like a commercial, but it's less intrusive, and they get to provide their own experience, and we can work with them actually on voiceovers and things like that. They're very customized to the experience that they're trying to provide the attendees in their booth, and also really centered around the unique products and things that they're trying to showcase while they're at the event.
Pat, we actually have a really, really good question coming in from the audience. Patty Shock is asking, is this usually part of a mobile app, or is it a completely separate app, or how does it, how does this kind of, what's the interface like for attendees?
Hi, Patty. Long time no see.
It's, for us, it's built into the app. I mean, there might be obviously opportunities for other, there might be standalone companies that offer something. For us, it's built in. Like for E3 and for coverings, it's just it's built into the app navigation, and it's just, one of the features of the app. Is how
we want to make it part of the overall app experience. So the attendee, everybody's got essentially the entire experience of the event right there at their fingertips on one app.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm curious to know too, on the attendee side, kind of pretty straightforward on how they utilize it. I'm curious to know on the back end, how, and I apologize to everyone, I'm fascinated by this because I'm imagining me being at one of these an event that I wasn't finding exciting and having an audio tour take me along. How does it work on the back end for planners and also exhibitors? So have you found that, you're able to see how much people have listened through? Is there any like analytics around it?
Oh,
what sort of data do you get?
Yeah. So, what's really cool is the app. The app can stream. We have lots of ways to get the audio obviously onto the device, and that's a whole sort of issue with, shows having lower connectivity and things like that. So we have some clever ways around that. But yeah, you get analytics on how many, did someone listen for the entire time? I mean, you know this too, Will, because you're probably doing analytics on your video stuff. It's the same concept, right? Did they start? Did they finish? How long did they go for? Which ones did they listen to? Which were the most popular? I mean, one of the things is the app automatically creates a best path route for all the stops on the floor for you. So it'll help you get around in nav, but at the same time, you can jump around, right? You don't have to follow the tour. You could be at a particular exhibitor and the app calls out and says, hey, this is part of the tour. Would you like to listen to the audio that goes with this booth? And so that's the attendee experience. For the exhibitors, we have a whole portal for them to load in a script, listen to the audio, approve the audio. We can work with, we have contacts for voice talent if they want to provide their own voice talent, if they want to have us get someone. And there's a really nice back-end experience for exhibitors to sort of see how they did. And that can be really valuable if you're selling stops on the tour, or you could have multiple tours, but you could have a tour that was kind of like our sponsors, or something along those lines, where you want to make sure that they feel like they're getting their money worth.
Ooh, interesting. You know what? Before I realized we jumped straight into this audio tours solution. And I realized that though a lot of people are curious, I mean, or more so where did the problem, obviously you guys kind of started seeing this, but let's talk about the problem with exhibit halls in general and how you see this really fixing that on that end. Not necessarily, obviously it's cool. I'm excited.
Right, it's cool. But yeah, Wayne, do you want to go or you want me to go?
Now I'll go. So let me start. So I think, this conversation has been going on now for 5 to 10 years about what's next, right? So for years, we've been putting out, concrete exhibit floors in nice rows and everything. And that's great. And there still is a lot of that out there and there's a place for it, but it's evolving. I think this is one of the solutions that is going to come out of this debate now and over the next several years about what's next in terms of the experience. So the attendees want a better experience. They want an experience tailored to them. And the exhibitors also want not only people to come by and see their stuff, they want to know who came by, who was engaged, what they were interested in. This is just one of the many things that's going to come out from a technology standpoint, I think, over the next, say 3 to 5 years, that's going to help improve not just the face-to-face experience, but proving the ROI behind it.
I like it.
Awesome. So Wayne, so far, what would you say the successes have been?
Well, in audio tours in particular, they've been awesome. The feedback from the organizers. Now, again, it's a pretty new product for us, so the saturation point in the market is not yet high, but we are, selling quite a bit more month after month, and we've had a number of good successes under our belt. We learn a little bit every time, and Jesse's in charge of product. We tweak it as we go, and like most things, we're the type of company that we listen. A lot of the initial product rollouts that we do, like a lot of companies, are based on things that we hear from the industry, things we hear from exhibitors, things we hear from organizers, but then we tweak it from there based on the feedback we're getting. And hey, not everything anybody rolls out works super well the first time, or it works and it needs improvement. So we continue to roll things out.
I think the problem, to get back to, Will, to your question, the problem that we're trying to solve is sort of twofold. One is, for me personally, it's this thing that I am a big believer in, which is trying to help organizers and meeting planners kind of convert their freshman attendee, that first timer, into a lifer, right? Like help them. What makes you feel, you only have to sort of meet 1 or 2 good exhibitors. You only have to, make 1 or 2 good deals if you're on the other side for a show to be successful. And, it's feeling comfortable at the show, feeling like you know what you're doing is tricky. And this is a great tool for, it helps attack that problem that I think organizers have, is what can we offer those first timers to make it sticky? How do I make this event sticky? How do I help people feel like, they had a good experience, they knew what was going on, they saw the good, important stuff? I mean, that kind of thing. Like I was saying that, Coverings did one of the tours in Spanish to help some of their international attendees experience the show in a new way for them. And I think that's, it's a challenge a lot of organizers face, is how do you get those freshman exhibitors to have a good experience, which is not the focus of this product, but also how do you get the freshman attendee to really have a good time, be like, I'm going to be back next year, and then the year after that, and, kind of keep coming back.
Also, to riff on that, just throw this in for a minute. I think one of the things that's really important is the international or multilingual piece of this. Mm-hmm. First-time attendees obviously are ones that you want to impress. You want to get them sticky. You want them to be sort of lifers. They want to come back every year. But international attendees they can be tough. Sometimes they come in a delegation. Sometimes they don't. But for them to come to a city maybe they're not familiar with, a big convention hall with a lot of different buildings and a lot of different exhibitors and things to see, it's really overwhelming for them to know where to go. A guided tour with some narrative behind it for key products and key companies, I think really, really helps them get the most out of the show. Often, the first time, and it'll keep them coming back.
I totally know what you're talking about, Wayne, because I was a first timer at the IMAX this year in Vegas, and I was so overwhelmed.
Oh, IMAX, what a show.
It's huge, and I got lost so many times. So I'm that first timer freshman that totally
I still get
lost. I don't remember you coming
IMAX,
by our booth, so you must have been lost. But interesting. We exhibited at that show. And we actually had, we were on one of the audio stops. Unfortunately, it was another product, not Coreapps, but there was a similar product there, and there were some organized tours where people were bringing by groups of people who were international and multilingual. I certainly couldn't communicate with them, and it helped us out a lot. And then they had some translation services to stay behind where people had questions. So it really helped with the engagement, not just for the attendee, but for us as the exhibitor.
Very interesting. By the way, for everyone out in the audience right now, don't forget you get to ask questions. This show is all designed about you, the audience, getting to ask questions. So if you're watching now, make sure to ask questions. The question panel is the best place to do it. Keep those questions coming. And I believe we're getting some more questions in. Taryn, you want to go ahead and ask the next audience question?
Sure, we've got another one here. So could you select the exhibits that you want to visit in advance, and then a map would be created for you?
Cool. Yes. Our app does that. Several of the other ones do as well. The way that we tackle that problem is we highlight all of the exhibitors that you've tagged that you want to see as in one color. And then we highlight, and then we actually allow you to check them off as you go. So then after you've visited someone, they change color basically. And that allows you to sort of start and stop and see, oh, I'm at this part of the floor, I have someone to see over near me or not, or that kind of thing. That's how we create it. And then, like I think I said earlier, we also do this neat thing where we have a best path routing, which basically says if you've picked all those exhibitors that you want to see, Taryn, you say, hey, here's where I am, and it will give you the shortest route to see every single one of your things, which is super useful for shows like IMAX or CES or NAB or those guys where, you want to tackle it hall by hall and you only have a morning, right? And you need to make sure you hit all those people. So that's how we solve that problem. I know other people do it other ways. Yeah, that's right. Wear your Fitbit. Take your Fitbit or your whatever to the show.
That's amazing.
Unless you work at a government installation, abroad.
Oh, right.
You
Unless
take
you
your
work
Fitbit.
at a government institution.
That's timely.
Nice current event there.
Sorry.
I love it. Really quick, can you give some rough outline tips that you have for someone who is wanting to step on these audio tours? So, for example, we have a ton of questions in here about, for example, how do you choose the voices? How can you make this most immersive? How does this differ from a museum voice of God? Like, what have you guys seen so far that you guys that you recommend someone does if they want to set up one of these audio tours?
So the exhibitors can provide their own audio, or as Jesse, I believe he mentioned this a few minutes ago, we've got a set of contacts that we put the exhibitors in touch with who can work with them not only on the scripting, but on the voiceover.
Cool. Very cool. Is that included as part of the package when someone would hire you guys?
We charge a little bit extra for that, but we don't actually take a markup on it. So it's just, we just want to provide the service.
Well, it makes sense. A lot of people don't know where to get someone who does voiceovers and everything like that.
Exactly.
And it makes a world of difference, like, as Will, like having, it recorded with a good mic in a true sound studio, makes it sound good. Absolutely. So
if you're Coca-Cola, you've got, access to that type of studio time. If you're mom and pop at a smaller show, you really need that kind of help.
Absolutely. So the question is, can I get the movie trailer voice to navigate, or like Liam Neeson with my voice? And now we're here. Okay, so we're getting a lot more questions in. So curious. So when you talk a little bit about the for example, the being able to route people, what sort of technologies are involved? Is it primarily someone's phone and their GPS, or are you guys using like RFID technology with like badges, QR codes, or even Bluetooth Low Energy? And I apologize for everyone who I lost you there on the technology. I'm just curious, like, what sort of technology is involved in developing something out like this? Why would someone also, to keep someone from just being like, oh, I'm just going to record an audio file and we'll just hand it to a attendees to listen to. Why does it, obviously, other than the routing, what makes this really so great with the technology?
I do think that the curated, for one part of it, I'll answer in reverse and we'll then get Wayne's opinion here. The reason you don't want to just hand out audio files, I think, is it's the curated nature and the story of it. So, that Coverings created what they called the Coverings, one of their tours was Coverings 101. And it was to help folks find, and visit some of the key exhibitors and pavilions and areas of the show, and it was provided, they provided some sort of good content that would help you kind of get used to the show and get the idea. So it's sort of creating a curated experience. For the navigation stuff, there's lots of different ways you can do it. You're totally right. If you're in an outdoor venue, GPS is absolutely, an option for you. Most people, I think, these days understand now that GPS signals don't penetrate roofs very well. So yeah, when you're in that convention center, the bottom of the Georgia World Congress Center there in Atlanta, or any of those places, you are looking at sort of using a different technology to do that stuff. Like you were saying, Bluetooth Low Energy is a very popular solution right now. And that idea there, if you don't know and haven't seen it, is at a show you've been to, the show organizer will deploy little Bluetooth iBeacons all over the floor, and the apps can basically use those to kind of triangulate their position. So that's another way to do sort of indoor positioning. There's some companies working on some really cool stuff around that area related to doing using the Earth's magnetic field and the compass stuff. Coreapps has sort of talked to a few of these companies that are working on that technology for indoor mapping, because it's an interesting problem, and definitely a hot topic for those shows that have a few hundred exhibitors, like Taryn was saying, shows like IMAX or whatever, that it doesn't have an exact layout the same every time. Finding your way around is tricky, and I think it's a problem that we'll be tackling for a few more years to come, frankly.
Jesse lost me on that part about the Earth's magnetic field. I'm the sales guy. So. I was good till that point. I think a compelling reason for an exhibitor to participate in something like this is, sure, you can hand out all kinds of things in your booth, and that's a really good experiential thing for many exhibitors to do. But there's nothing in, say, the app or through sort of the official show channels that's going to drive someone to your booth without participating in something like this, if it exists.
Love it. Have you guys, just curious, because I have a lot of event planners who would do things other than exhibits, have you thought of any way to apply this app to normal events or things outside of the exhibit arena?
So, we've talked about like you could do shopping malls and sort of other things like that. But there's already, there's a lot of companies already sort of playing in those spaces. The events industry is unique and interesting, and frankly, it's more challenging in my opinion, right? Because what's cool about a trade show is it's kind of like a mall, except it's a mall that changes every week, right? Like the map changes every day, well, not every day, but think about those major convention centers in the United States. Those floor layouts are changing every week. It's not exactly like a shopping mall where Guess and Nordstrom and whatever the pretzel place that I love are always in the same place, right?
Is it Auntie Anne's?
Auntie Anne's, yes.
I love those.
Exactly.
They're terrible for
pretzels.
you. They'll kill you.
They're terrible for you, but they're so good. So good. But yeah, those all stay in the same place. Right? It's not, whereas a trade show is like a mall that moves every year. And those shows that move around, right? Like there are many, many shows that, because to cater to their members, they move either around the United States or, we have customers who are around the world. I'm going to a show this summer that's, usually in the US, but they're doing a show in Barcelona this year. So, that sort of, I don't know. I think that's the extra challenge, and for us, it's enough work. We're busy. We don't need.
Well, I think going back to your original question too is, look, first and foremost, we're an event technology company. And I've always said that events are not rocket surgery, but they are a little bit quirky. And, there's some unique things about them that, there are some certain issues that need to be addressed. Like, for example, recently we heard from a metropolitan transit and tunnel authority for a major city that because we do beacons, wanted us to bid on putting in a beacon technology tracking system for automobiles. We declined. Could we have done it? Maybe, probably. But hey, it's not really in our wheelhouse. And I think like a lot of companies, we try to stick to event technology. And there's just so many cool things that we can do in the next couple of years.
Awesome. Well, speaking of cool things to look forward to, I wanted to save that question towards the end because that's always like my favorite question is like, what do we have to look forward to? But we'll come back, I think, into the nitty gritty of how people can apply this more. But tell us a little bit about how you see this tour technology moving forward. What do people have to look forward with it? What do you, either stuff that you're working on or stuff that you would love to see that you have no idea how you're going to end up doing it, which is always the fun discussion, right? So Jesse, you want to kind of lead off?
You want me to go first? Oh,
yeah.
All right. Well,
good.
I'll tell you what our CTO wants to do, because he and I have been talking about it for like at least 2 years. So we can't get permits for it. What we want to do is he wants to write. So we have all this mapping data, right? Like to be able to draw the maps and stuff, Coreapps is actually importing down to like the centimeter. It's basically, we're taking the same data that Freeman uses to build out the floor to build our maps. And all of us on this call or on the show are familiar with the idea of drones, right? So what our CTO wants to do is he wants to do like street view for the events industry. Like he wants to basically the night before the show opens, when all the booths are built out, he wants to write. So he thinks he can write some code that will basically fly a drone down every aisle and get with one of those little mirror ball camera things and take a picture. Take pictures as it flies up and down the aisles, and then we would be able to have like street view on. Awesome. On the event app. So that's something that we think is something that would be really cool. Where I will tell you fascinatingly, one of the biggest barriers isn't the programming. It's because I've talked to several of the big venues in the United States anyway, and getting a permit to fly a drone indoors, you may know this, Will, I see you nodding your head, is crazy hard. Crazy. Like, and as soon as I tell them, no, it's not going to be operated by a person. It's going to be a computer flying it. They're like, no, Jesse, no. There's no way that our insurance will cover you, programmatically flying a drone around the show floor with all the lights. Because you can't really do it middle of the night. You need the lights on and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
They're like, no. But
it's even funnier when you tell them it's going to be empty too. And they're like, no, still no.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Your exhibitor, a few exhibitor personnel get decapitated. I mean, it'll be fine.
Is that why they call you guys Coreapps? Because you guys like chop them down to the core? I love it. I think that's really cool. And I think that it would give people the ability to see what they're getting into. But better yet, I mean, we've talked about this, I think, a couple times on the show already. It's like we just need the ability for people to see the inside of a venue when it's set up or what it looks like. Right. Because far too often, planning happens remotely, and why are we still flying in for site visits when there's such great technology to visualize what it looks like on the inside, right?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and I really don't see. I mean, we've heard a lot of talk about like AR and VR and all that stuff, but I mean, here I've got my phone. I mean, can you really imagine people walking around the show floor like this? I mean, really? We're not. Maybe when there's glasses or whatever, I mean, I think it'll come, but I don't think, at least in the short term, right, that it's not a good experience. People are there to do business and network, and this is literally something in between you and the person, that you're trying to interact with, and I don't know.
But Jesse, which one will come first, the drones or that type of experience?
Depends. You know,
See,
John. As soon as he can get regulatory approval to fly his drone indoors, I don't know. I think we'll be there.
Well, I think, and I really think so. Google Glass, right? Way ahead of its time. Obviously, it bombed, but I really think that, so obviously I wear glasses. I feel like I'm going to walk into a show floor one day, and up here in the the little corner on my heads-up display, I'm going to look around and I'm going to see little almost like bubbles that come up that say, okay, Wayne, based on your demographics, you're going to want to go over here to ABC company and see XYZ product, and it's going to be personalized for me just based on what the system knows about me, based on reg data, based on behavioral data, based on everything that's been collected about me. And although, we start getting into questions about
you wanted to see, right? Like
exactly.
That was that earlier question about making a personalized map, right? Like, those glasses could notify you and say, hey, Wayne, that's an exhibitor you said you wanted to go see.
Yeah, and that's where technology really is going to improve the face-to-face experience. I think is serving up personalized experiences.
Awesome.
I mean, we got into this, like Coreapps started to sort of solve the problem that paper just couldn't do everything, couldn't do everything. That's why we started it originally, right? A paper map is outdated the minute they print it. The same thing with the session directory. I see Taryn nodding because she knows. She's, exactly, right? Like, you had your little highlighter and you were like highlighting the booth. I mean, I used to do this. I would, I'd highlight the booth that I was going to go see, and I'd be, oh, it's the wrong one, or it wasn't. I mean, we got into this because we realized that every business person was carrying a smartphone, and it was like a computer, and all these things we could do with it. Technology can help. Good use of technology can really improve everyone's experience, right? It can help the exhibitor have a better show, like it can help the attendee have a better show. And we are, like Wayne said, we're like on the precipice of it, right? It's getting the momentum is really building. When we first started out, we just did a session list and an interactive map and an exhibitor, an exhibitor directory and a speaker list. Coreapps had 4 icons, and that was all we did. And that was, 9 years ago. And now it's like, well, yeah, it's audio tours, and we do some AR stuff, and we do, geo-fenced alerts, and this, best path routing and helping you like make the most of your time. And we've got a lead scanner for exhibitors. I mean, there's a ton of, I should let Wayne do this list, but like it's changed. Technology is helping all of the sort of stakeholders at these events have them be better. The funny part is that, and I wonder, I'm interested in what your audience is hearing. I so often hear that, from that, oh, but the next thing is virtual events. And I just so don't believe that is true. I mean, when someone says that to me, I say, really, when was the last time that someone signed $1 million deal through teleconferencing? It just doesn't happen. You don't sign big business deals not in person. And so trade shows are going to be here because it's the face-to-face is just, it's too valuable. It's too valuable, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I know you were saying, so like people walking around like this, obviously a little antisocial, but are you worried about the earbuds being weird, that people have them in their ear the whole time, or better yet, that people remember to bring them each day? Are you worried about that?
I see so many people with earbuds every day. It's hard to like think that anyone doesn't have them with them, but you're probably right. There probably are some folks who don't have them.
Or when I don't want to talk to people.
Right. You're a good example. I'm actually pretty surprised about the number of people who wear the big earphones like you are out on the street and stuff. It definitely is you're right. It does promote an antisocial vibe. We haven't had any issue with it. I mean, at least that we haven't gotten any direct feedback. That's a great point. We haven't gotten any direct feedback, and especially a big headset like you're wearing, you can't exactly do like one in your ear or whatever. I mean, like Will and Wayne have their little small ones. Right, exactly. They have their small ones. You could totally do one in and kind of do both. But yeah, that's tricky. I mean, our solution doesn't require the headphones. You can absolutely hold your phone to your ear if you wanted to.
I guess it would be up to the exhibitor too. Like, I mean, it's about the crafting the content to make it engaging, but you probably want to make it where it's walk up to an exhibit, they talk about it, someone gets engaged, and you say something like a call to action, like, now hit pause and walk up and talk to them, or come walk up and talk to us to learn about our 50% off deal or whatever it may be, right?
Oh, we've absolutely had exhibitors do things like exactly like, here's the code word, tell us this for a free t-shirt, or any, there's some other interesting things so that they can, basically get a little bit of data connection of, oh, this person obviously came from the tour because they knew the code word or whatever such things. We also can be displaying like images on the app and stuff on your phone while the tour is playing if you want. But yeah, usually it's, or sometimes people do tours of their booths, where it's the exhibitor is saying, look at this product and then do that other thing, there's
Absolutely.
some neat stuff there.
Wayne, I'm curious, when you're talking to your sales team and telling them, like, who are the target audience? Like, who would you say are the people, like, what would you say is like, hey, someone who's looking for this or this and this, what kind of people should be really implementing this at their next event?
Well, as much as I hate to say it, I think it's more the traditional sort of, square grid type of layouts, because a couple reasons. A lot of them are really, really big. The convention centers are big. The events are big. And they don't have as many distinguishing features as they might. So we're looking for bigger events, and we're looking for events that are trying to find more contemporary ways, if you will, to engage people. So some of the sort of traditional brick and mortar type of events that have been around forever that need an infusion. And I got to tell you, oftentimes those are associations. The association community tend to be a little bit later in terms of the adoption curve, if you will, than say corporate event producers. So a lot of times they are willing to really consider, some sort of infusion of something a little different, a little bit more excitement. That's who we tend to go after, I would say, a little bit more.
Oh, awesome. Geez, we just got a ton of questions. Brady Wim is also asking, so you talked about images, Jesse, being able to show images and things like that, but he's also wondering, can you also do video as well?
You can absolutely, we just consider them like media resources can be associated with any stop. So yes, you can absolutely have the audio direct them to the thing and then link to a video, multiple videos, pictures, that sort of thing. Yeah, we're fully multimedia here. We know that creates the richness of the experience, right? And again, for an organizer who's doing stuff as a sponsorship opportunity, we want to make sure that their folks get their money's worth, right? And feel like it was a worthwhile experience.
Absolutely. And quick shout out to Ray Baum out in the audience, says, hey all to everyone.
Hi, Ray.
Hey, Ray.
Hey, Ray.
Thank you for tuning in, Ray. And for everyone who is tuned in, don't forget you get to continue asking questions about engagement. Ironically, we're talking about engagement, but also engagement on the show as well. So continue to keep those questions. We only got a couple more minutes left, so you got probably maybe a couple more questions that we can fit in. So get them in while you can. So
Ray is actually a former DJ, so he's got one of those great announcer voices.
Ooh, there you go. So he needs to get this question in for sure.
When we were talking about video, Jesse, it reminded me, what other kind of content would you suggest for people to have on the audio tours?
Right.
Go ahead, Rain.
Well, I was going to say the sky's the limit. I mean,
yeah.
Got to get creative. It could be, anything from, like the idea of, the sort of secret password where they could come up and, whisper something and they get, some sort of show special or some sort of giveaway at the booth. Video content, as Jesse said, super important, makes it really engaging. There, it can be handouts. It's really the sky's the limit. With the multi-experience you can get on a phone now, you're really only limited by your imagination. Jesse, I'm sure you've got some other things to add to that.
What we see is but besides video, video's the best, right? And it's amazing. A lot of your exhibitors already have these, 90-second, clips already that they produced. Maybe it was a commercial they did. Maybe it's an internal something that promotes their brand. I mean, all these things are really easy for us to consume and load in for them and, give them a richer experience. But we see product brochures, we see, just product images. Sometimes, even text. Again, you're not necessarily, you're not really going to be reading and listening to the tour at the same time, but it does still, every stop on a tour has a place for a description and some information that we can put things and, different from a listing, unique in that way.
The other thing we didn't cover was the shelf life on this is much longer than just, the couple days of the show, right? People can go back and reference this for, days, weeks, months afterwards. And that's why things like video content or, even PDF brochures and things like that are helpful in that the exhibitor gets the mileage out of distributing that on the platform for a long time after the event.
I'm imagining too with the drones, that'd be very cool to do too. Like you can go back and look at it again anytime you want and get a good look at it with the audio going along with it.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Taryn, you go ahead.
We're getting close to the end, so we want to make sure we get some important questions answered. I've got this question for both of you, but we'll start with Jesse. What's one tip that you have for event planners, whether it's related to audio tours or not?
I think that my one tip for organizers would be make sure you talk to your technology providers about, what kind of offerings they have and if they have any suggestions for you for out-of-the-box thinking. You've got a great resource in your vendors, and sometimes I think that, from the vendor side, we don't like to tell you what to do, but if you ask us, we'll be way more, maybe you'll get more suggestions than you wanted, for example. But, I'll give you one of the coolest ones that I did for a perfect example. We have a customer there, the SHOT Show. They just finished their 2018. It's firearms and that sort of thing. And the airport in Las Vegas, McCarran Airport, has this problem because all of the little giveaways at the show look like guns, right? Like they're toy guns, they're actual live ammunition. And so they have this problem every year after the show because people show up at the airport thinking they can take those things in their carry-ons, and of course you can't take. Most people know you can't travel with guns, and they asked me, they're like, do you have any ideas? I'm like, well, we have this feature in our app where we can geofence an alert, right? We can put an alert that pops up in the app and makes noise and does all this stuff only for specific places. And I was like, why don't we put an alert around the airport and kind of in some key areas that lets attendees who are obviously headed to the Las Vegas airport, hey, you can't bring that in your carry-on, or you can't bring that at all, or any of that sort of stuff. And it turned out it was huge. Like McCarran even ended up partnering with us, and there's a little video on our website about it that was really neat. But like, it was a perfect thing where they came to us and they said, hey, do you have any interesting ideas? I don't think I ever would have in a million years kind of said, hey, I know what you guys should do, because your vendors don't usually tell you what to do. We most of the time spend our time listening to you about what you want. So I think my tip might be, don't forget, you've got some experts, you paid them, ask them if they have any ideas for you about what, how they know their product, right? They'll help you, whether it's ours or, whoever you're using. I don't know. All right, Wayne. You've got the both sides.
So one tip, let's see. I would say it's in the next 5 years, reinvent your show floor, particularly if you have a very traditional type of exhibit space. Change is coming. We talk all the time about now the 4 generations that are currently in the workplace, and the boomers aren't going to be around forever. And the experience needs to be more personalized. It needs to be more engaging. It needs to be sort of quicker, more bite-sized chunks. I don't know that anybody knows exactly what that looks like, but one of our clients, for example, the Recreational Vehicle Industry Association, they have had their show now for, I believe, and it's pretty much the same format for about 50 years. They announced last week that they were canceling the show. They're taking 1.5 years off, and they're going to unveil a completely new experience. I don't know that anyone knows what that experience is yet, but I applaud them for taking something that is successful, presumably has been making money for their industry, and basically scrapping it and saying, hey, things have changed, we're starting over. So there aren't any answers around that necessarily, but there are a lot of questions. And I think event producers need to be asking those questions.
Wow. I think that is such an incredible story to tell too, because far too often do we get stuck in next year, we're going to do this and we'll make this slight improvement. But for them to take a year and a half off gives you the brain space to think from scratch, start all over. I'd be very interested to see how that ends up playing out, whether attendance numbers, everything like that. But man, good for them for sure. I mean,
us too. You're like, and they're a client, so we're pulling for them.
There you go. We'll have to have them back on the show to hear how that all went. But I think that's a really great tip for everybody. So, all right, getting to the end of the show. So it's my favorite question that everybody knows I love to ask, which is resources, cool apps. And you guys are both tech guys, so I'm sure you guys got some really cool stuff. So share with us, your favorite apps, technology, blog posts you've just read, a book you just read, pretty much anything you want to share at all. Feel free to share right now. I see, Jesse, you're shaking your head. You sound like you've got a ton of resources ready to go. So what resources what resources do you got for everybody?
Well, I mean, some of I do a lot of traveling for Coreapps, right? I go to a lot of shows a year. So I'm not the typical I'm not a typical attendee who probably only attends a couple shows a year, but a bunch of your audience is going to be show organizers who probably do a fair amount of travel. So key things for me, I absolutely, live and die on Google Maps and, for basically finding places to eat and, finding sort of little out of the way places. I'm a huge fan of TripAdvisor versus, for trying to get good places to eat and places I haven't, or go or see and places I haven't been. I held them up earlier, I think in the pre-show. My coolest sort of recent gadget has been my Apple AirPods. They work with more than just Apple products, but a set of Bluetooth small headphones. Yeah, they're not. Here they are. I mean, they're just. It's the size of a. It's the size of a dental floss. My dentist would be so disappointed. They're the size of dental floss, right? But I mean, I love these things. I, can put them. You put them in. You put them in one. You can do one. I also love that you can just listen to have one in, so you could be listening to music or whatever. What else? I don't know. That's to me. Those are the. Get a good laptop and a good backpack or whatever. I'm a pretty mobile worker. I'm trying to think of if
what laptop and backpack are you using?
Right now I'm using an Osprey that has a place for it has a dedicated, laptop and tablet pocket.
Are you using the bag, the hybrid bag, I'm totally forgetting about it. And yeah, it has the day pack that attaches to it and does that, right?
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like that's, if you're going to be doing a lot of sort of road warrior type stuff, that part is really key.
We'll look up what that bag's called because I can't remember the name.
Yeah, we should definitely post it.
I'm obsessed with Osprey. So yeah.
One other cool one for show organizers
Waypoint.
Know this is if you have a tablet like an iPad or a whatever, you can use it as a second monitor, so that you can. I am a huge fan of an app called Duet that basically lets you put your iPad and plug it into your computer, whether both Mac or Windows, and it acts like a second monitor, which I know there was a time and place where I used to talk to people about having two monitors and they thought I was absolutely crazy. They were like, "You have two? What do you, what? It's unbelievable." Now I'm finding it's way more commonplace in work environments to have two, but when you're on the road, you can't. So, but for me, screen real estate, trying to do email on one or the internet is really huge, and being able to use my iPad as a second screen is a pretty key feature. So yeah, I would highly recommend. It's called Duet.
Awesome.
Jesse, I thought you were using up to 4 monitors at one time. Weren't you using 4 or something?
That is true. My desktop does have 4 monitors, and I am not the guy with the most monitors at Coreapps.
I'm having monitor envy.
We have one employee who has 7.
Jeez, wow.
Oh my.
He is the most productive man on your team.
It's an amazing office picture, I'll tell you that. Yes.
I love it. By the way, the backpack that I'm not sure if this is the one you have, but it's the Osprey Waypoint backpack.
Yes, the Waypoint. Yes. Yep.
Which I think they might have discontinued now. So it's a great backpack.
Well, I'm glad. I better take good care of it.
But the Farpoint is a good alternative too. But that was my Europe long-term backpack for a long time. So I love that bag. All right, Wayne, what about you? What's your top resources and cool things that you have to share with everybody?
Jesse covered a lot of cool stuff, so I'm going to sound a little boring here, and some of this is like an age demographic thing, but my advice is kind of reinvent yourself. First of all, I'm not a big social media guy, and I'm sure some of that is due to age demographic. I always tell my kids, hey, I'm too busy living my life in analog. That said, being in the industry we're in, both in tech and events, you have to be well-versed on that stuff. And, I always try a couple different new mobile apps every week in different things just to, try to figure out how they work, try to figure out what the experience is and see if can they have some sort of impact on my life. Most of them don't, but some don't. Some do. And I just try to stay up on what's going on in the industry. But, I mentioned before, I'm a music freak. So any way of sort of encoding, downloading, consuming music, and I'm into a lot of different genres. So I'm big on, the channels and the apps and things that serve up personalized things that are going to expose me to new stuff. So, I try to engage in that. Don't have a lot of free time, but I try to engage in that stuff as much as I can.
Awesome. You always got to have good music.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Taryn, what about you? I know you probably have some cool things that you're always checking out. You're always on the road. So what do you got to share?
I travel the world full time. So I'm currently in Peru. But like for me, a huge thing at Endless and me personally is just constantly learning. So carry a Kindle with you all the time or some kind of thing that you can constantly be reading on. Currently I'm reading Tim Ferriss's Tool of Titans, which I actually have the actual book, which is massive.
It's gigantic.
Highly suggest anything by Tim Ferriss. It's really, really fabulous. But also the event world is chaos constantly. So I highly recommend the Calm app on your phone to like have a moment of peace in the chaos.
Yeah,
take 10 minutes and breathe.
That's a good suggestion.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think having a good app to relax you a little bit is really good.
Yes.
So what is the Calm app? Is that like, Buddhist monk chants or something?
No, it's an app where you can do downloaded like meditations.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, like 10-minute guided ones or just listening to like calm music. Or it has this thing where it teaches you to breathe slowly. So but I'm a yoga teacher as well, so I'm a big fan and chilling out.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, I have one cool resource for everyone. A lot of people may have ever heard of this or not heard of this, or might be like, this is weird that Will's sharing this, but I actually have a credit card to recommend to everybody. For those who don't know, points are amazing, especially if you're in the events industry, you travel all the time. You want to maximize them the best you can. I recently did a lot of research as I was rehauling a bunch of stuff, moving banks, and we discovered probably the best credit card ever called the Chase Sapphire Reserve Card. So a lot of people might look at it and be like, whoa, $400 like application fee, but what's great about it is it gets you into their Ultimate Rewards program, and you get 3 times points on anything travel and dining. So whenever you're on the road, Ubers, renting cars, everything like that has a ton of points for travel. It is fantastic, and their points are worth about 2 cents each, which is about the highest that you can get in the industry.
Definitely.
If you Google Chase Sapphire Reserve reviews, the points guy did a huge review comparing all different travel cards, but we recently made the switch over to it, and it's been fantastic. And if you're doing a lot of travel like we all do here, you're gonna hit the minimum spend to get those, the bonus of 80,000 points right away. So highly recommend check out the Chase Sapphire review and Chase Sapphire Reserve in the reviews of it as well. It's a fantastic card. So a little bit weirder than usual Will tech stuff he has to share. So that brings us to the end of the show. We are at the top of the hour already. Time flies when you're having fun. But you guys, it has been absolutely amazing. Before we wrap up, though, I want to make sure that everyone knows that, hey, there's more than one way to ingest and enjoy EventIcons. If you didn't know, we're on iTunes, we're do Facebook Live, and we also do it on the Zoom webinar. If you are watching on Facebook Live right now and you enjoyed this, head over to www.event-icons.com. a little excited today. But check out the website, sign up because we send out a weekly newsletter with all the recordings in case you miss it, but also get access to our Facebook group as well, exclusive group with all the viewers, and also these guys right here are going to be in it as well to answer any additional questions. So if you want to get in touch with them, you definitely want to go join that Facebook group as well. And the only way you can get into it is go to event-icons.com. So I'm going to wrap up the show. Jesse, Wayne, Taryn, it has been so fantastic to have you guys all on the show.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I'm excited to implement audio tours in my event, and I'm sure everyone else is as well. So thank you guys. Let's kick it off though, and let's play that outro music that we all enjoy, and get to rock out to some more music. All right, here we go.
Thank you for joining us for another amazing episode of #EventIcons. To catch the transcription and all of the resources mentioned, head to www.helloendless.com/blog. This week's episode will be posted and available by next Tuesday. Also, let us know what you thought about this week's episode. Share your biggest takeaway and join the social conversation. Sponsored by Little Bird Told Media. Just tag your post with #EventIcons. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on #EventIcons.